Okay, so this is where we left off, quadratics, and we're doing the quadratic formula. So this would be if something does not factor. Okay, so we went through the factoring yesterday and we said that's a simple trinomial, a difference of squares, GCF, complex trinomial. Okay, and you probably put one of each example on your cheat sheet, I was hoping. So this is the formula if it does not factor. Okay, so on your exam, I will have a formula for you, so you would not need to write that on your cheat sheet. So this is what you would see on a formula sheet. Okay, so you don't need it. Okay, x equals negative b means to write the opposite of the b. So opposite of b is positive 8. Okay, because that was negative, so I write positive. B squared, what is this squared? I'm going to do that in my head. So 64. And it doesn't matter if it's 8 squared or negative 8 squared. It still is positive 64. Minus 4 times 3 times negative 7. All over 2 times 3. How do I type this into my calculator? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is just figure out this piece. So 64 minus 4 times 3 times negative 7. Just that piece is 148. Okay, what's wrong with what I'm doing right now? There's a mistake that I'm doing in my writing this. Okay, so I analyzed this piece. It was 148, so the root of 148, and I obviously changed the 2 times 3 to 6. But what is wrong with the way I wrote this? Something would be wrong if I type this in right now. I would need brackets to say this top gets divided by 6. If you don't put brackets on it, it'll go very wrong. So okay, so when you're typing this on your calculator, don't forget the bracket because of the square root. You would need 2 brackets on that. And then we all know that button second entry brings it back to the screen, and then you can just go back and change it to subtract. So that you don't have to retype it all, you just second enter and then you go back. Okay, those are your 2 x-intercepts. On an exam, if I really want to check my answer, what could I do? I could put this into my y equals, and then I could calculate the 0, and I get negative 0.69. Negative 0.69. I can check my answer, right? I know if I'm right or wrong. Okay, b, x equals negative b. What are you going to write for negative b? The opposite of this. So this is 2, so I write negative 2 plus minus the square root of b squared, so that becomes 4, minus 4 bracket a, negative 1. A is negative 1 times negative 5. Okay, what I got when I did this part in my calculator, it came to negative 16. And what happens in math when you square root a negative? Doesn't work. So I'm going to write, there's going to be no solutions for this, because you can't square root a negative. And here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to check my answer by graphing this. So if I put that into my y and I graph it, look at this. There's no way this parabola is ever going to touch this x-axis, ever. You see it? So that's why there's no solution. Okay? Some of you ran into that on the test, and then you still tried to answer a number. Just that's where you say, okay, no, I can't even do that. So okay, next, determine the equation. So the vertex is 3, negative 4. So this is what I start with. And I don't remember if I put that on your formula sheet or not, actually. Does anybody have their formula sheet from the start of the year? By any chance? It's at the front of their binder or something? It's yellow. I just want to know if I put that on there, because I'm using that same formula sheet. I think I did it yellow or white. Anybody find it or no? Okay, so this is the formula that I'm going to be doing. So the vertex is going to go into the H and the K. So the vertex has to go into the HK, and because it says subtract, you're going to put it in opposite way. So the X is 3, so I'm going to write subtract 3. And the Y part of my vertex is negative 4, so I'm going to write a plus 4. Okay? Now, I'm going to put in x, y. I'm going to put in a point. I'm going to put in any point. So you can find any other random point. We have lots of options here. You just have to pick one. So I'm going to go with this one. I have a coordinate on there called 5, 4. So I'm going to put the 5 in the place for the x. And the 4 is going to go in place of the y. and I'm going to figure out the slope. Okay, so this is 8, and this would be 2 squared, and 2 squared is 4. Therefore, my slope is 2. Okay, and I also visually knew that. I don't know if I talked to you about this, but if I went over 1 and up 2, that's because the slope is 2. Okay, my final equation is that, because when we graph stuff, we leave the x and the y open and we fill in everything else. So when you have a graph equation, you have to have x, y open. Okay, I would probably write this on your cheat sheet. Something about that, and then showing me my vertex HK, opposite XY. I'm pointing to those and saying put the point in to that. And maybe you want to put this on your cheat sheet where you go vertex HK, point XY. So I would have something like that on my cheat sheet where I'm showing myself where to plug stuff in, if you want that on that paper. Okay, the x-intercepts are 1 and -5. So let's pretend that's how we ended up. The ending up was that x equals 1 and x equals -5. How did I get that? By factoring. What are the factors above that? So the x-intercept of 1 would have mean the bracket would be x minus 1. Okay, think about your factoring stuff going backwards. If you had an x-intercept of -5, then this bracket was x plus 5. Y equals, and there might be a multiplier in front yet. Okay, the y-intercept is -15. So that would mean the point would be what? How do you write that as a point? A y-intercept means the point is what, comma, what? 0, comma, -15. So I'm going to replace the x and the y. Okay, so the x gets replaced with 0 and the y gets replaced with -15. Okay, so again, same idea, I'm just solving for the a with my algebra. So So my final answer would be writing what I know and leaving the x's and y's open. That would be my final answer. Okay, I'm not sure what you want to write on your cheat sheet for that one, but if you want to write something out, go for it. I'll give you 2 seconds to do that. Okay, so where are you going to plug the vertex HK in? So opposite. Remember, this has to go in opposite. So the H is now going to read +2, and the K is going to read subtract 5. The X gets replaced with 2, and the Y gets replaced with a -11. And we're going to figure out A. So -16. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Therefore, A is going to be -1. So how do I write my final? Y minus 5 equals -1 x plus 2 squared. Again, all the info except for the x and y are left open. Okay, I hit a golf ball from the top of the hill, so here's the equation of what happened. So h is the height of the ball and time is the t. So let's graph this. So y equals, and then let's graph it. Okay, the biggest thing will be getting your window. So I kind of feel like I don't really need all this x over there, so I might cut the x off at -5. And I want to see higher. I don't really know how much higher, but window. So x, I'm only going to go -5. And then y, I'm going to do 25. Nope, more. 40. Nope. Let's go 60. Still no. I'm getting close. 80 must work. So this is what I'm looking at. Something like that visual. Okay, what is the y-intercept? So that's what I want to know first. So how do I find that point? Do you remember what the calculator instructions are going to be? I'm going to go trace 0. I'm going to tell it to go to when x is 0, 11.5. What does it represent? So at the time of 0, this is the height we're at. So what does this mean? The starting height. And we're hitting this ball off of a hill. So that's like when we're on the hill. So we're standing on a hill here. That's what we're doing. Okay, find the roots of this equation and what do they represent? So the roots are another word for x-intercepts. So what are the x-intercepts? Another word is what are the zeros? So let's left bound them and right bound them. Okay, what do they represent? So, right now the ball is doing what? Hitting the ground. So this would be the time when you hit the ground. So it's the time. It's saying when is the height 0 or when are we hitting the ground. So what do you think about the time of negative 0.23 seconds? That does not even make sense. So it takes 5.22 seconds for the ball to go from hitting it up in the air and then hitting the ground. Okay, what's the domain of this function? What's the range of this function? So domain is the time. So what is the lowest time we could ever be at? 0. This is where we start. And then the ball hits the ground and then we have to stop. So 5.22 seconds is when we stop this. Okay, we're not going to travel underground with the ball. Range is the height. Range is going to be the height. So what is the lowest height the ball will ever be? Which would be the ground, so 0. And then the highest height will be up here. And I got to figure that one out yet. Haven't done that. So what is the height of the ball up there? So that means I'm going to calculate a maximum. And I'm going to guess, I'm going to go, it's between 1 and 4. That's my guess. So the highest height is right here, 71.88. Okay, you sell concert tickets for $10. At that price, 500 people come. So this is what we're actually going to start with here. We're going to talk about the revenue of a concert. So the revenue equals price times the people. The price times the people. Okay, what did the price start at? We were at, the ticket price was $10 at the start. And for that, we had 500 people. If you increase the price by 50 cents, so increasing the price by 50 cents, how do you write 50 cents? That's probably really important to write it properly, because I don't want to increase it by $50. So 0.5 is how you would write 50 cents. Then 10 fewer people come. And what do you need to include on this yet? I'm missing something. You need some kind of variable. So if this goes up 50 cents or 50 cents and another 50 cents, then this has to go down accordingly. Because I don't know how many times I want to do that. Okay, you're ready to go. So that's already, I can type into my calculator just as I do see. My pre-calcers would have to foil that all out and do it all by hand, but you get to just type. Anybody want to guess a window? Because how much money was I making just at the start? So that's already 5,000 right there. So I'm going to go to 8,000 on my window. Not sure. So I'm going to go Y max 8,000. I'm going to go up by 1,000. Okay, so I definitely need a lot more X. So the X I'm going to change to 50. Okay, so first talks about the max. So can we get this vertex on the top, please? So calculate the max. So on my calculator, I got this coordinate 15, comma 61 or 6125. So that doesn't answer the question though. So here's how we're going to answer it. The ticket price. The ticket price. So now I'm going to replace X. I'm going to replace X with a 15 because that's the X value that I want. So I'm going to set my ticket prices for $17.50. Okay, the largest revenue, that's that. X is the changes, but the Y is the revenue. So 61.25. What ticket price will happen when the revenue starts to drop below the original revenue? So what was our original revenue? 5,000. So here we're going to be making more than what we would originally. So that's all good. But then once we hit this spot, that's not good, because now we've made our tickets so high, we're actually going to lose money. Okay, so how do I get this in my calculator? I go to my Y2 and I type 5,000, which is my original. Okay, and I want that intersection, because this one is at the start. Okay, so my answer is not 30, because I said what's the ticket price. So you're going to have to go into the ticket price and plug in a 30 there. So a $25 ticket would be the highest ticket price you can do before now you're just going to be starting to lose money. So don't go over that. All right, let's do one more. I think I'm not going to do the last one. Okay, a diver is jumping off a 4-meter platform. So your 4-meter platform, and then what does a diver do? Jumps up, eventually hits the water, right? Okay, so the 4-meter platform, how could I label this coordinate? What, comma, what? As in, what's the time and what's the height? Yeah, I heard it, 0, 4. Yep, because the 0 is the time. She reaches a max height of 5.2 meters when you're 0.19 second after leaving. So be careful, because you always are writing your coordinate time, comma, height. And then I'm trying to answer how long before she hits the water. Okay, this is one we just practiced on the other page. This is a vertex. Which 2 letters does a vertex tell me? H and K. This is a point. So what does a point tell me? An X and a Y. Then I go to this formula that I have, and I plug all those in and figure out the A again. So please make sure you have that on your cheat sheet. Do you see how many times we've already used it? So the h, I'm going to write subtract 0.19. The k, subtract 5.2. Because those go in opposite, so they were both plus. So now in the formula, they're both subtract. The x is replaced with a 0. And the y is replaced with a 4. So negative 1.2 Okay, so these are some decimal numbers. When I squared this, 0.0361. So I'm going to have to divide. I don't know if this is going to come out nice. Negative 33.24. Okay, so I would like an equation where I can take that equation and put it into my calculator. So y minus 5.2 equals negative 33.24 x minus 0.19 squared. Oh, I can't put that into my calculator right now. That's how I would write it, or could write it, but on your calculator you can only type in when it's y equals, not y minus something. So all I need to do for my calculator is just, I need to move that out of there, because on your calculator the button is just y equals. So y equals, and then at the end, I'm going to write plus. Okay, because that calculator, that won't work in your calculator, right? Now I'm ready to put that in. Okay, my window is going to be a lot different than we just last had. So the window, think about this x value. This x value is 0.19. So my x's, I'm going to go from, I don't know, -2 to 2. I'm not going to do much x. -2 to 2. My y, well, this height was 5.2. So I'm just going to go -10 to 10. But I don't need much x. Okay, maybe I need a little bit more x. I'll go to 4. There. So I'm going to figure out, where does this diver hit the ground? So right here, the diver is going to hit the ground. So calculate the 0. I'm thinking it's between a 1 and a 3. So 2.08 seconds. And that's my answer.